Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix and clean and customize it. Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa, using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Wayland State Bank, over 90 years of being community-minded, just like you, located in Wayland, Winfield, and Mount Pleasant. McDonald Boneyard in Keota for all your auto and farm machinery recycling needs. Hinshaw Trailer Sales in Richland. They fix what they sell and don't in their full-time repair shop. Girling Repair in Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna and Aaron's dealer. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops in Burlington, Salem Stub, New London, West Point, Denmark, Houghton, Bonaparte, Milton, Fairfield, and Birmingham present Southeast Iowa Today. I'm John Bain, author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host. On today's episode, I'm visiting with the dispatcher for B&B Propane, Jeff Davis, and it's a fascinating, I think I say fascinating at least 3 times in this episode, but it's a fascinating episode. Jeff, thank you so much for being on Southeast Iowa Today, and also a big thank you for B&B Propane and the family of Jet Stop sponsorship for Southeast Iowa Today. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Hey, there's a lot that I want to ask you about propane and the propane industry, but first I want to tell our audience that we are in Houghton, Iowa, and that's the headquarters for B&B Propane. Can you tell us how Houghton, Iowa was the choice?
Yep, well, it was started back in the mid-'60s, and it was about the time when, you know, a lot of the rural residential was home fuel oil, heating oil, and then there was a transition to start using propane, and that's when the company was started, and it's grown to what it is today.
Now, for some of our more seasoned viewers, that they may remember fuel oil being used in their parents' or grandparents' homes. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between fuel oil and propane?
Yeah, so basically fuel oil is what would be dyed diesel fuel, and that's what they burnt. They had a oil burner in the basement, and then as those, you know, they came up with propane, and that was a better way to do it, and that's when everything got switched over.
Because with the fuel oil, as you said, the tank was in their basement, right in the home where they're living.
Yep.
Whereas a propane tank is outside and comes in on a line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And it's liquid propane in the tank, and then the vapor is what comes in the line and into the furnace and the appliances, and that's what's used. So it's very efficient.
Very good. Very interesting. It's fascinating to me because it's stuff that, when everything's working good, you don't think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Now, you have told me that it's, you've told me how the propane gets here to Houghton, Iowa. Mm-hmm. Can you share that with our viewers?
Yeah, basically, we have storage tanks like the one behind me here. And so at our different sites all around Southeast Iowa, we go to the different pipelines in our area, and we can load it directly out of the pipeline onto semis, and then bring it here and store it and use it as we need it with deliver it with our residential delivery trucks.
So I know that there's a station in Cantrell.
Yes.
In Cantrell, Iowa, that the trucks can go to and pick up the propane.
Yep.
How does it get to Cantrell?
Yep. So that pipeline is part of the whole system. It actually comes from Kansas, and then it originates clear down in Texas, and then it's piped up through the pipeline and into Kansas, and then on up from there.
So that's pretty efficient.
Yes. Yep. It really is.
It's really a lot more efficient than shutting down a pipeline and then having to use trucks to take it from the origination site all over the place.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of parts of the country, you know, all over the United States that there's not a pipeline system. So, like as an example, out west, like California and some of those western states, they have to get it in by rail or truck, but they don't have a pipeline like we do.
So we're very fortunate to have
Yeah,
a
yes,
pipeline.
very fortunate.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, this tank behind you, that's a big tank. How much propane does that hold?
Yep. So that is a 30,000 gallon tank.
30,000.
So and a safe fill quantity would be you can fill into about 80%.
Okay.
So you have to leave room for expansion.
So to kind of give our viewers a better understanding of what that tank is compared to their tank at home, how much is a tank that sits outside of someone's home?
Yeah,
fill?
a normal residential house tank is a 500 gallon tank. So
Okay.
safe fill on that, you're full at about 400 gallons.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, speaking of home use for propane, we're in the dead heat, beginning of August, middle
Yep.
of summer, and pretty soon it's going to start getting cold, whether or not people believe that right now or not,
Yes.
but it always does.
Yep, it'll be here quickly.
Yeah, and what should people be thinking about right now as far as their home propane use?
Okay, so yeah, if you, it's never a bad idea to call your HVAC guy or whoever handles your furnace work. Come have an annual, take a look at it, clean your filters, make sure everything's ready to go for the winter, and then of course have your, check your tank if you're not on a autofill program with your current company. See where you're at on propane, and if you can hold a delivery, this is a great time to do it before winter.
Now, you talk about contacting your current company. If you don't own your tank, you're actually renting that from the company you're with, and then people just naturally every year just go with that same company.
Yep.
Is it a good idea to shop around?
Yeah, it's always a good idea whenever you're buying anything, so if there's people out there that maybe you're not totally happy with who you've got now, or just want to check around, you're always welcome to call us, and we can tell you what we can provide and see if it's something that would interest you.
And in a scenario like that, and this would be the same if it was your tank or anybody of your competitors,
Yep.
Whoever the consumer decides to go with, that company will remove that tank,
Yes.
and the company they go with will bring in one of theirs, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And then and there's also sometimes people the tank might belong to the residents, and it's always been that way for years, and then you don't even have to worry about that. You can buy it from whoever you'd like to.
Okay. And then would a consumer necessarily know if they own the tank or not?
Yeah, I mean, there's every once in a while, it's like anything when people move in and out of houses in the country. Sometimes, for the most part, though, it should be known. There'll be a decal on the tank, and if there's not a decal because it got painted and one didn't get put on, when you open the lid on the tank, there's a serial number, and that number can be checked, and you can trace it to who owned it.
Right. Now, earlier when we were off camera, you had told me about a very fascinating place in the state of Kansas that is a storing area for propane.
Yep.
Can you fill in the viewers a little
So
bit?
yeah, I've not been there myself, but just to hear about it, it's kind of in the east central Kansas, but where it comes up through the pipeline, they store the propane underground there, and then so they've got a large capacity of storage there.
And we're talking thousands and thousands.
Oh
and
yeah,
thousands.
I can't even quote the numbers what it is, but yeah, it's pretty much all that gets sent all across the Midwest, upper Midwest, all the way up into Michigan.
And how many
Minnesota.
years have they been doing that?
Yeah, and I can't quote you that either, but yes, a long time. I mean,
It just, to me, it's fascinating, and it's American ingenuity at its
yes.
finest.
Oh yes, yep, and it's one of those things that when you have a hard, cold winter in Iowa, you still get times where the propane supply gets tight, and So we're, like you said earlier, we're fortunate to have all the pipeline system available to us and not just have to rely on rail traffic or truck traffic.
Now, when you talk about the supply getting tight, what are some of the factors that go into that cause that condition?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything when you're using a volume of propane. So you got a long stretch of cold weather, and it's getting, when there's not breaks. When there's breaks in the weather, it helps, and then it spreads out the usage. But when you get some really cold days in a row, and that's when allocation can come into, that sometimes they have to actually put it on allocation so that they're not pulling more than they can keep in the pipeline.
And in most cases with B&B propane customers, you're not really going to be affected by that allocation very often.
No, but it does happen. I mean, everybody has to deal with the same thing. If you can pull it steadily, and that's why, going back to that's why it's a good time when you live where we do, that you should get your tank filled this time of the year, or before it gets cold, before the weather gets bad, the roads get bad, and then you don't have to worry about, you'll need a refill, but you're starting out full, and it actually helps the whole system.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I noticed inside your building over here in your office area, you have a really neat thing going on down one of the hallway walls, and it is photos of your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the years of service, and I think the originals are like 45 or so years, all the way down to 2 years possibly.
Yep.
That's really neat.
Yeah, it is, and it's that's one of the great things about our companies, is we do have a lot of great employees that have been here for a long time, and they have a lot of experience, and we can lean on that for about any situation we get into. And it's also telling of the company that it's a good place to work and good atmosphere.
Now, I know you have some younger individuals that work for you at this time of year.
Yep. We've got crews of people around Southeast Iowa. I'm sure I've seen them in different spots. I know you said you had them at your house. It's a good time of the year to go out and wash our tanks, power wash them, give them a fresh coat of paint, get a good decal on them, and just keep them looking nice. And that's another thing that's important. We get people call. Something you want to remember with propane tanks is you don't want to be painting them dark green or browns or blacks, because the sun makes them a lot hotter, and so white's basically the best thing you can do to help reflect the heat and for the summertime.
Now, as far as if someone wanted to look into starting a career, being a part of B&B Propane, do you have a training program, or do you have openings, or how would someone go about that?
Yeah, it changes all the time, so that's never a solid answer. As far as you never know when the next thing's going to come up where we're going to need somebody different, or if somebody has something happen that they're going to be gone for a while. So yeah, we're always open to people if they're looking about changing jobs or just want to know more about it, and maybe don't want it now, but they might someday. You're always welcome to call, and we can get them an application and get more information.
And how many folks do you currently employ?
So for the B&B, we've got 8 drivers that deliver to all the residentials, and then
they're actually filling up the tanks.
Yeah, they do the service work in the summertime and during the season if there's an emergency or something that needs fixed or checked out. And then we have 5 guys that deliver transport loads, so that'd be semi loads of propane, like coming to these storage tanks. So yeah, we have quite a crew.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know I'm a customer, and when it's the middle of January and it's 12 below zero, and I'm sitting in a nice warm house, I think of you and the other folks at B&B Propane that help ensure that I've got a warm house. So thank you for that.
Yep, you bet. So yeah, we're all over Southeast Iowa, down into northeast Missouri, and some over into west central Illinois. So if you're somewhere in that area and you ever want to know more about it, just give us a call.
Okay. Well, Jeff, is there anything I should have asked you about propane that I shouldn't have asked?
No, maybe one thing to just touch on. A lot of people ask, or they're not familiar with propane, but yeah, if you ever, if you have propane and you ever smell it, it's they put a odorant in it because it doesn't smell naturally, but they put it's called mercaptan, but they put that in all the propane that gets sold, and then it has a rotten egg smell.
Okay.
So if you ever did have a leak, whether it be out at the tank, right at the tank, like if you're out mowing and you smelled it, you'd want to give us a call and we'll come check it out. Or if you were inside and smelled it, definitely the number one thing you'd want to do would be get out of the house and give us a call. And if you're able to, we also tell people to go out and shut the tank off if they can.
Gotcha.
But number one is get away from the situation. Yeah, just get out of there and then get on the phone and we'll get somebody there.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff Davis, thank you so much for being part of Southeast Iowa today.
You bet. Thank you, John.
That was Jeff Davis of B&B Propane on this episode of Southeast Iowa Today, brought to you by Car Doctor, Griner Auto Body, Wayland State Bank, McDonald Boneyard, Hinshaw Trailer Sales, Girling Repair, and B&B Propane and the family of Jet Stops. I'm your host, John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.